If you want some FIFA 23 coins, please check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're fast, cheap and reliable, and if you use code REMA you can get yourself a 5% discount. So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video guys, we've got some custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-3-3 fourth variation, otherwise known as the 4-3-3 attack. Now a lot of you guys that watch this channel a lot will understand that I like to use a 4-3-3 as one of my formations because it offers width and something different when narrow isn't working. But just before we get into today's video, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up, as that does really help me out with the YouTube search algorithm. Also subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, let's get right into today's video. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics, for the defensive style I like to use balance. This is because it gives you the greatest control in defense. You're able to press when you need to press, and then you're able to be more conservative and drop off when you need to do that. So it does give you great control, which is very important when defending. If you want to use pressure tactics because you feel more comfortable with that, go ahead, but I do suggest getting used to balance if you can, because it does make you a better player. Now, moving on to defensive width, guys, because FIFA 23 is quite a narrow game, it makes sense that you want a more narrow width. We have our width on 42 because it allows us to defend in a compact style, in a compact way. It stops people just being able to run right through the middle of you, which is very important, but it also has that natural coverage of the wings, which is also important because people like to go for those cutbacks and things like that. So by having it on about 42, you do get to defend in a primarily narrow way, but you also have good coverage of the wings. Now moving on to defensive depth, I like to have this on about 57 at the moment. I kind of like change this when something's not working, but the reason I've got it on 57 at the moment is because, you know, I don't want to sit too deep. I don't want to be pinned back all the time, but at the same time I don't want to get overdone with through balls every 5 minutes. So by having it on 57, I'm able to press high when I want to, and then I'm able to drop off a little bit more when I need to as well. It's a nice balanced defensive line which allows you to do multiple things. If you want that higher depth because you like to win the ball higher up the pitch, you can go up to like 72 if you want, or if that's still too high for you on 57, you can lower it even more if you like, but I just have it on about 57. Now moving on to build-up play guys, I suggest balance. The reason being is fast build-up can sometimes do more harm than good. Your players can dart up the pitch way too quickly, especially in a formation like this, and it kind of loses its structure sometimes. I do like using fast build-up with formations that have more diamond shapes, if you get what I'm saying, but on a formation like this I suggest using balanced, as it just gives you the greatest control. Now moving on to chance creation guys, I do suggest direct passing as always, because if you look at the diagram in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you can see how your attackers, which are the white dots, are constantly moving around in a dynamic way to break through the defensive line. This allows you to create a lot of chances. If you look at something like balance, this doesn't happen. They don't really bother the defense, nothing really goes on there. So it's important to use direct passing, otherwise you'll find it very difficult to create chances. Now moving on to attacking width guys, because this is a wider formation, I use a higher width than I would in my narrow formation. So with my narrower formations like the 4-1-2-1-2, I often have my width on about 35, but with a 4-3-3, because it's wider with those wingers, you do want a bit of a higher width. So I have this on 47 because it's 5 higher than my defensive width, so we can defend a bit more compact and then expand out in a natural transition. That's the main reasoning as to why I have it on 47, and it's important you don't go too high with the width, otherwise your players become far too disconnected from each other and it's very difficult to play passes. So I found a good balance in having this on 47 because your players stay out wide but they're not too far apart from each other. Now moving on to players in box, I have this on 5 because I like to obviously get some players in the box so we can create chances, but at the same time I don't want to overcommit my whole team, so having it on 5 has been a good middle ground. If you want to up this or lower, it's completely up to you. Now lastly, for corners and free kicks, again I have this on 2 like I do with every other formation. The reason being is you have some players there for the set piece in the box, but at the same time you don't overcommit your whole team, so you're not as prone to counter attacks. But again, if you want to up this or lower it, it is completely up to you. Now, moving on to the players you want to use in this formation, because it is a one striker formation, it's important that you have a nice well-rounded striker in the striker position. Somebody with a 5-star weak foot is preferable, somebody that is agile so they can turn, somebody that has great finishing stats, somebody that can hold up the ball, you know, basically a player that can do a bit of everything. So I'm using Robbie Keane as he fits that criteria for me very well. Because it's a one striker formation, you obviously have to compensate for the fact that there is only one striker instead of two. Now, moving on to the winger positions, this is pretty self-explanatory. You want to use wingers. You want to use players that are fast, players that can dribble, players that can even shoot, cross, you know, do a bit of everything that a winger needs to do. So just go for the nice, quick, pacey wingers in these positions. Now for the cam, I suggest somebody with good attacking AI, a natural cam, somebody with a high attacking work rate, somebody that's going to move correctly. So I'm using Phil Foden because he's nice and agile. He makes very good movements, which is important in the cam position. Otherwise, it can be very difficult to create chances. And yeah, Phil Foden fits this role perfectly. Another good example of a player that will fit this role is like Bernardo Silva with that high work rate. He has very natural, good attacking AI, which is very important in this position. So go for a cam that has good movements, even like a Kevin De Bruyne if you want, somebody that is good in that position. Now, moving on to the two centre mids, I suggest going for one more defensive centre mid and one more attacking centre mid. So I've got a defensive player in Patrick Vieira. He's got very good defensive stats. He's going to primarily stay back, which is very important. And the best work rates for this position are like a medium-high, medium, or a high-high. You don't really want to go for a high-medium on a defensive midfielder because it won't work too well. And then on the right centre mid spot, we have a more box-to-box player, somebody with balanced stats, somebody that can attack and defend. And the perfect work rate for this player is a high work rate because, again, it gives them the maximum contribution in attack and defence, which is super important for a box-to-box player. Now, in the two fullback positions, you can do what I do and go for a bit of a balance, like where I have one more attacking fullback in Hernandez and another defensive player in Kyle Walker, or you could go for two attacking players, two defensive players, completely up to you guys. Just do whatever you want with the fullbacks. And then the centre backs and goalkeeper just need to be as good as possible. And yeah, I'm mainly just using Chesney in goal for chemistry. Now for player instructions, guys, on the striker, I don't like to restrict him too much because I want more natural movements. I like him to do a bit of everything. So we just have him on stay central because the only important thing is that we don't have him drifting off to the wings. If you have him on balance, sometimes he'll do that and you don't really want that. You want this player to stay central. You need them to be there to finish your chances. Otherwise, no one else will be a lot of the time. So it's important you have your striker on stay central and we just leave everything else alone because we want him to do a bit of everything. Now on the two wingers, I leave them on balance, and the only thing I actually change is I put them on get into the box for cross. Now, the reason I put get into the box for cross for both the left winger and the right winger is because sometimes when we're attacking, if we don't have this setting on, they're very conservative. They don't really get involved. So by having them on both get into the box for cross, in this scenario, for example, let's say I'm down the wing with Di Maria. Because I also have Chiesa and get into the box for cross, if I want to cross this ball with Di Maria, Chiesa will transition into the box to get that as well. So it gets them more involved. Doesn't just mean you have to cross it. It just means they assist you more in your attack. So get into the box for cross for both the wingers. Now on the cam, I leave them on default settings and the only thing I change is get into the box for cross. I put get into the box for cross on because again, we want this player to get involved. Sometimes they won't get involved if you have them on default balance crossing runs. So by putting them on get into the box for cross, they will transition into the box to give you extra options and get more involved. I think it's very important, guys. But yeah, I leave everything else alone. Now for the box-to-box player, I leave him on completely balanced and the only thing I change is cover wing to cover centre. It's important we have him to cover those central areas because we don't really need him covering those wings because we've already got Chiesa and Walker on this side. We need him to cover the central area. So leaving him on default settings allows him to attack and defend, which is what a box-to-box player should be doing, and the high work rate means he's able to do that very effectively. So yeah, cover centre on the box-to-box centre mid. Now on the more defensive midfielder, I have stay back while attacking and cover centre. This is pretty self-explanatory. We have stay back because we don't need them to attack. These are this is a defensive player. We want them to stay back. And we also have him on cover centre because again, similar to Park Ji-sung, we don't need him to cover the wings. We've already got two players on this side, Di Maria and Hernandez, so we want him to cover the central areas to stop our opponent playing the ball through the middle. And then lastly, for both the fullbacks, I just have stay back while attacking. In some formations I will have the fullbacks on balance, but they are in narrow formations where we need extra width in the attack. But in a wide formation we've already got the width with the two wingers, so we can just have these on stay back while attacking for the extra defensive support. But yeah, they are my custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-3-3 fourth variation. If you guys have enjoyed or found this video useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.